Hello everyone, we are live yet again. It's going to be one of my authors chats of the week, and it's actually the second one I'm doing this week. So it's been a busy week for me, and I'm really excited about getting together and reconnecting with this particular author. We'll be talking about books, writing, publishing, and everything in between. And also this week I've been on my own working through listening to all the audio files for an upcoming audiobook. This will be for the second book of my Incarnate Saga series, my dark shifter-based fantasy. You can kind of see the book in the red, Uyir's Fangs, and it will be that book. So I'm excited that means hopefully before the end of the year I'll have another audiobook release. But as I digress, I'm going to keep an eye out for my co-host, send the invite, which I'm doing right now, and we'll get things rocking and rolling in just a few minutes. And I hope everybody's week is going well. I am ready for it to warm up because we had a cold snap coming through in my area, and let's see. Here we go. I do not do well with cold. Hello, hello.
Hello, how's it going?
Good. I hear you. I do not see you. I think you have to invert the camera. Ha! Voila.
Gotcha.
How are you?
Doing fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm good. You're one of those authors, whenever I see your post, you're always running around to another event. I feel like you have that event bug that some authors that I know truly enjoy, so I know we'll be talking about that momentarily, but since I know we've talked about, gotten together on one of these at least once before, but I'm going to let you reintroduce yourself and what you write, so anybody else who's unfamiliar with you, they should be by now, but anybody else who is not, can get to know
absolutely. My name is Atlas Creed. I am an author most of the time, some of the times. I wrote this book. I didn't grab a copy of it, so let me go ahead and grab a copy of it. Oh,
Shame on you, of all people.
I know. I should be more prepared. I wrote this book right here, Armitage, and a couple other short stories. And it's a paranormal thriller with some fantasy woven in, kind of a little unique.
Yeah, and how old is Armitage? Like, when did you publish it? Because I feel like it's still relatively a young book in all regards.
Yeah, it was published in June of 2024, so about a year and a half ago.
That's so exciting. Okay, so you've done a lot in a year and a half, I feel like, with your book. So you definitely started off far better than I did, because when I released my first book, Asara's Claws, I just let it go and thought that everybody in the world was gonna find the book and just discover it. And it took me a couple years before I realized, no, I kind of have to market my own stuff.
That's marketing the book was one of the things that kind of I started querying agents. I think I queried about 20 to 30 agents.
Mm-hmm.
And after a week, I was doing some research, talking to some agents, talking to some authors I knew that were traditionally published. They were like, yeah, they're not really going to do a whole lot of marketing for a new author. I mean, you might get lucky, you might land a big deal, but by and large, they're not going to do a whole lot of marketing. It's still going to be you doing it. And I was like, well, I already have it edited. I already have it, a cover design for it. If I'm going to be marketing it myself, that was the only thing I was leaning on traditional publishing to do. So why not just go the indie route? So I immediately shut down my query tracker, said no longer looking, and just went indie.
And how has your response been so far? Because again, you're one who definitely takes advantage of these kind of face-to-face physical events, among other things. So how has your reception been for your debut book?
Well, first, I love these face-to-face events. I love conventions. I love meeting readers and other authors and getting the chance to talk shop, or even just talk books with them. But it's been really well. I have found that my marketing, if I'm not there to pitch my book, is lacking. I need to fix that. I'm not sure where I need to fix it. I guess that's all part of the learning curve and the headaches and the growing pains of being an indie author. But when I talk to people, when I pitch my book, they're very interested, and I've had very positive reception. Because I seem to manage the expectations pretty well. But when I pitch the book out there, or I leave the book to kind of market itself, it's been kind of like, oh, well, some of these elements didn't make a whole lot of sense, or I was expecting this or something like that. And I've noticed that those are people that picked up the book independently. So I'm trying my best to modify my online presence, when I'm not pitching the book, like on Amazon or on Barnes and Noble or whatever, to kind of be as honest about the book as I can while still being engaging and drawing in readers. It's a tough racket. It really is.
I wonder, I don't know, I just popped in my head because at physical events, one of the things that I learned to do, and since, especially now that I have multiple series going on, is I would come up with these little cards to tuck in the first books of each series that just highlight, the tropes, the themes, the genres, and one line, the little hook. And so even if I'm not at the booth or whatever, someone can read, or if someone's uncomfortable talking, because there are people who prefer not to. Sorry, there's a timer going on.
Okay, sorry.
But certain people who prefer not to necessarily engage, but will come up and read those little things. So I'm wondering has anybody ever have you ever noticed a book where in the first few pages they have stuff like that? Because on Zon, they let you usually sneak peek the first few pages. So if someone's flipping through, after the copyright page, here's a list of tropes and what. I don't know. Has anybody used that? What do you think?
That's a good point. I haven't seen that. I have seen authors in their series. I just finished reading the Brent Weeks Lightbringer series. I don't know if you've ever read that book series. It's phenomenal. But for his, I think he started it in the 3rd out of 5th book. He would do a recap of the previous books. And that was really helpful for me. And leading into that, he would kind of talk a little bit about the war. Like before he did the recap, he would drop a little bit of lore that was going to be relevant, that he covered in previous books, but that was going to be relevant. Like TV shows when they're getting ready for the next episode, or they'll do a recap, but they only recap specifically what you're going to need to know for this episode. He kind of did that with his book, and I thought that was unique. But I like that idea of using your sample pages to pitch your book for you. That's a good idea. I haven't thought about that.
I don't know. It just popped in my head because I do that for a physical booth. Why, has anybody ever thought about that? Particularly for Zon, but that's just because most people, and it still is that way, the majority of people shop through that platform. Will it change? We'll see. But because just by numbers standards, that would be probably something that would be interesting. Now I'm thinking, when do I have this theoretical time to test this out?
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I might do it too. So the opening pages of my book, really, I only give the content warnings, and I do, as you know, when we're doing with this anthology, I do an indie author appreciation page, and I try to highlight different indie authors, but adding in some tropes or some expectations at the beginning might be a nice augment to that. I like that idea a lot.
Yeah, because again, when you're talking about finding ways to pitch your book when it's not necessarily you in front of the book, so you find the right readers, and I don't know, that's just something that I'm surprised no one has utilized. At least I haven't seen it utilized that yet. So
I agree with you. Yeah, and I mean my book too. The cover screams horror novel. I get most people, they walk by, I try to pitch my book, they're like, "Oh, I don't do well with scary books." I'm like, it's actually not scary. It's just a thriller. It's definitely more suspense. So I love my cover. I don't plan on changing it. I think that Gamma Trap did an amazing job with the artwork, and he's going to be doing the rest of my covers. But for the second book, I think I'm going to have him tone down on the graphicness to see if I can't pitch it a little bit differently. But it's helped me in the last year and a half realize, yeah, you do judge a book by its cover. I mean, your cover says a lot about your book. So you definitely want to put your best foot forward.
Have you also thought about, I know there's a lot of things, time, money, finances, all money, finances are the same thing, but coming up with either an exclusive or a specialty alternative cover where then you can kind of play around with a different approach and say, this is what you buy directly from me. You're not going to find this, but this is an alternative cover. One, it hooks people to buy directly from you or your shop or whatever, but also it may, again, play around with something a little closer to what you think readers are trying to expect out of the genre. I don't know.
Like its own kind of, I guess, test campaign, like a poll.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing with my special edition omnibuses. That's why I have the dust covers, and I'm going to have the paperbacks. So these little more illustrated covers will be the physical covers for a specific set of paperbacks and audiobooks and ebooks that people are only going to get through me. And the same thing with the special editions. So if you want this kind of cover or the iridescent foiling or that kind of stuff, you have to buy it through me.
And that's a nice hook too. It's always hard to find people to go to your site instead of Amazon or
Yes.
Barnes and Noble or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Special. They have to hunt for it if they want it. If they want the pretty.
I usually just I try to do like, hey, you're getting a signed copy, and that's not enough draw. They're like, eh. I kind of joke when I'm at conventions. People are like, will you sign it? And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to let you leave the table without me signing it. And then I joke and I say, hey, I don't know if I'm big enough. I probably devalue my book by signing it. Oh, you marked up my copy, kind of thing.
Mhm.
So I kind of joke about that maybe that's why it's not enough of a draw to bring people to my website because I'm not a Stephen King. I don't know if my autograph makes the book any more valuable or not.
Not yet, maybe,
Not
but that
yet,
doesn't mean
exactly.
it won't.
That's true.
But yeah, there are so many different people who use these creative things. Like some people number, but you have to remember what number you're signing books. So then people are like, I got the first of whatever book signed, and other people I've seen now use special stamps. So if you're going through, a book tour or whatever, they'll stamp it. So it's like a, what do they call it? The passport stamp idea. So they sign it, but they also get a special stamp. So saying, hey, if you come back to see me next year, I'll give you a different stamp. And people collect the stamps. So it's once you sign it, you have it signed, but then it just draws you again, come back and see what else has had left. And I was like, people are so creative.
They are, yeah. I didn't think about that. That's awesome. There have been a few events where I've had people, especially because I'm in the same area. I mean, I'm mostly around the DMV area, so
Mhm.
I've run into the same people at several events.
And I see. Thank you for that comment coming up saying BookFunnel just launched personal signed ebooks, perfect option for digital direct events. And that's the thing is, I this fall started selling directly through BookFunnel. Is how I'm routing it, but with that kind of thing where I can sell my audiobooks that go through them and ebooks that go through them at physical events because some people just don't like reading print books. I prefer print books. That's just my bias. But everybody likes different things. So being able to say, well, if you don't want it printed, I have right here, right now, you can buy directly through me and I can get you that ebook or audiobook.
And it's so nice. I started trying to pitch my audiobook. So there's an open source platform called Audio Bookshelf. You have to set up the server yourself. So I had to leverage my tech knowledge a little bit, but I like the idea of being able to just give somebody a username or password and use my own domain. So it would just be audio.atlascreedauthor.com, and that puts them right into my audiobook platform. I'm able to give them my short story and my Armitage audiobook, and
Nice.
I can sell it for like $5, nice and cheap, and I retain all $5 of that. It doesn't cost me anything. I know a lot of people like to use BookFunnel for audiobook distribution. I didn't like that there was like that extra expense for the monthly subscription of how
Yeah.
many audiobooks you could put. I was like, I don't know if I'll sell enough audiobooks to make that. So I was excited when Audio Bookshelf open source tool, open platform tool. I was like, I could just build my own server, and if ever they want to charge for it, sorry, I'm getting a little techie here. I could just go to the last free version of it and just create a branch off of it and then expand it myself if need be. So I can always keep it free. I can always maintain the royalties myself, which
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's one of the biggest things we're trying to do.
Absolutely, and coming up with ways to have I see in the chat, mentions of these kind of even digital signatures so people can collect things like that. I never thought about a digital signature, but yeah, just creative ways. And I have made note of Audiobook Shelf because I always learn something every time I do this. So now I'm smart. I have my sticky pad with me. The downside is because I have only a little bit of time, I have sticky notes just flooding my office everywhere because I have yet to find the time to type them up on my computer in a way that makes sense.
It's like you come up with this nice quick routine. You're like, hey, this will be nice and easy. And then it just gets away from you faster than you could possibly imagine.
100%, all the time, all the time. So what plans do you have now? Now that Armitage is about a year and a half, and you've mentioned that you have a short story out and about, what are your next plans as a writer/author?
So I've got a few books in the works. I've got the sequel to Armitage, since this is book one of a series. And it's going to be interesting because Armitage is much more murder mystery, much more thriller revolved, but it has that drop of fantasy. The second book in the series is going to pull them back into that fantasy world. And I think, from what I remember of your books, I think you'd get a kick out of this because I'm taking a lot of Nordic inspiration, a lot of Celtic inspiration, a lot of Slavic inspiration. I just finished developing my rune magic system. I've got actual magic that the people are like blessed with light, so they can actually channel the energy of the world around them. And then you have the non-magic folks who rely on these runes, which is just the language of the god. So the fantasy world takes place in the corpse of a celestial titan known as Idramir. Think like Ego from Marvel, like the living planet kind of thing.
Yes.
And so the runes basically allow them to write the language of the titan and channel in whatever that rune, whatever that word, whatever that emotion. And it's affected by all this stuff. So I have a lot of that Nordic culture in there. I'm bringing in like woodwives. I'm bringing in like the dryads, the nymphs, stuff like that. And I'm having a lot of fun, kind of bringing in this extra culture. And so that's my next big project, if you will. I've got a couple short stories. I've already written them. I have a sci-fi thriller or sci-fi drama, I would say. That's in, you can kind of see it up here, but there's an anthology right there. I have a short story called Century. That one's already been published. I've got another one that I just finished in an anthology with you, which we could talk about. And that one's a sci-fi cosmic horror, and I'm so excited to get that one out into the world. And then I have another one that I finished that's like way off the beaten path for me, and it's a rom-com, a spicy rom-com.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, we did an anthology that follows the Shrek characters, but leaning more on like their folklore, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So I got the Pied Piper, and
Yes.
I was like, there's just something kind of fun with the idea of a guy who's good with his tongue and has like a flute that can control people. I was like, there's going to be some interesting in there, you know. So I decided I can't write romance and smut and stuff like that. I just can't take it seriously. I just giggle when I read it. I giggle when I write it. So I turned it into a rom-com, and I just kind of challenged myself to take that approach. And I think it turned out pretty well. I'm waiting for the other authors to finish their stories and get that one out there as well. But yeah, those are the major projects I'm working on right now.
So one of my things is like I wish I got into writing short stories a few years earlier because I waited around forever because I was concentrating putting all my effort and attention in my larger works, and then eventually started challenging myself for my Nordic novella series. But because learning of things like, oh, those reader magnets, and, we offer something that's a freebie and stuff like that. So I started writing a couple of short stories for those purposes and then realized, oh, wow, this is a great way to test out, new approaches to writing, different genres, and see how you feel. I have now a short story as the first time it was a first person POV. I don't know if I'm going back to first person anytime soon, but I wrote it. I did it. Third person, I realized, is where I'm comfortable, but now I learn. But it's a great thing to like challenge things. Like I have an urban or rural fantasy versus most everything else that I've ever written is that second world style. So it's just fun to kind of use that as a way to challenge yourself to get out of your comfort zone and see what you can come up with. And so it sounds like, at least for you, you're doing all of that.
That is kind of why I started doing short stories. The short story for Century, the one that's published in The Last Day Under the Sun, I originally had a larger plan for that. And I'm still thinking maybe I'll, expand on that because Century, the short story that's in there was just the prologue that I had written to the book. It was the first chapter of the book. And I was like, this would be kind of fun to expand on, but I don't know if I'll ever get to it. We'll see. It's still rattling around the back of my head. But yeah, definitely the rom-com. That was a way for me to kind of explore that style that I'm not familiar with, that I have no faith in myself to do any justice to. And who knows? I mean, I kind of made a pitch on it on Threads about six, 7 months ago. And HD Carlton commented on it, and she was like, I want to read it. And I was like, oh, all right.
Okay.
I need to get this out of here now. But yeah, exactly. It's fun to do that. And then, yeah, the Dragon Mist, the short story that I have for free on my website, I made a couple print copies and I use them as a table magnet. I just hand out it's 20 pages.
Yeah.
And I just hand them out at events like, hey, you want a free short story? That way, if you're not sure if you're going to like Armitage, you can test my writing style and see if that's something that you're into.
No, I think that's just a smart approach for any author to utilize is, I know again, is the time and the effort that it takes to write the story and make sure it's polished. You know, you want it to be as good as it can get because again, it's another way to attract readers to you, but having a few of those available that you can utilize, like you said, at physical events or to ask, get people on board to things like newsletters or just to buy into a bigger series. Great things. And I also see the comment, you are now recognized as the Armitage guy.
I've gone through a few recognitions throughout my time on TikTok. It's fun, but being known as the Armitage guy, since I have a book named Armitage, that works for me. I'll take it.
I was gonna say you kind of want to be known for what you write, and it may be one book. Hopefully, you get recognized by different people for all the things you write. But that's a good thing. That means something you're doing here is getting out to people.
I had my wife went to a Christmas market in our area. The expo center that's near us is closing down at the end of this year, so they're on their final events. And at this at this Christmas market, my wife was walking around, and an author that was pitching kids books there stopped her, and she goes, "Are you Atlas Creed's wife?" She goes, "I recognize you from somewhere." And my wife was like, "Yeah, my husband's an author." And she goes, "Ah, Atlas Creed, yeah, I know him." And I was like, "Oh wow, that's weird." And so she brought home the book, and I was like, I don't know this author." So I looked it up, and she was following me, but I wasn't following her. So I was like, "Oh, okay." Now I'm like, "Where did I meet you? Did you recognize me from my TikTok stuff, my Instagram stuff? Like, did we have a convention together or something?" Like, and now I'm racking my brain. I was like, now I feel terrible. What if we've met somewhere and I don't remember? Now I feel like an ass.
See, I'm a person where I'm terrible with names, but with faces. So if I see a face, usually I can be like, okay, I can kind of figure out where I've seen you before. But if it's just a name, I'm like,
You got me. I don't know.
I have no idea. Okay, now you're getting rebranded as Atlas Hermitage.
Atlas Armitage. That's fine. I'll take it.
But no, I was gonna. That is a great thing. So, what has been since you've published your first book something that you didn't expect that you were going to enjoy, and something maybe that you wish you knew earlier on? It's a two-part question.
So kind of going back to what we talked about before, when I was looking at traditional publishing, the marketing aspect was something I didn't want to do. I was dreading it, and I have my days where I get burnt out, and I'm just like, I'm just going to leave social media for like a handful of days, maybe a week, just to kind of recoup. But I actually really do enjoy the marketing aspect of it. I've kind of simmered down in the past year, but most of last year I was trying to find like the most ridiculous stuff that I could do to market my book. And it was fun for a while. And, I kind of, like I said, I got recognized for a lot of stuff. And I've simmered down to try and, I don't know, maybe make my brand a little bit more serious. And it's just a phase that I'm going through. I might go back to the joking stuff, but marketing is something that I really enjoyed. Something I wish I knew sooner, though. And this is maybe a blanket response. I wish that I didn't know as much as I thought I knew sooner. I thought I had the publishing and like distribution and stuff figured out. And then people mention, like, you've got your little sticky notes that you write down. People would mention something, I'm like, what's that? And it's just like I start exploring this whole new world. Like right now I'm doing I don't know if you've seen the videos. I put out an Excel spreadsheet template that I was working on to kind of make tax season easier. A hard lesson that I learned from last year. And I got my brother, who's a CPA, to help me kind of figure one out. And a lot of people were like, oh, can I get a template of this? I'm like, well, I mean, I have a background in IT. Why don't I just create an application that will automate all this stuff? And then people are like, oh, you mean like book report or like publish or like publish? I was like, oh, all this stuff already exists. And I had no idea. So I thought I knew a lot. And maybe I do. Maybe I know more than I give myself credit for, but I definitely don't know nearly as much as I think I do. And I wish I knew that sooner.
I think that's a good thing to be or come with that humble approach to the writing and publishing space because one, it's changing so rapidly. Like every year there's something new and coming out. And also I personally want to challenge myself that I'm always trying to learn new things and know that I don't know if I'm ever going to feel like an expert in it, and that's okay because everything is changing and everything adapts. But I want to be that one that's like, hey, I know I don't know everything, but I also don't know what I don't know. So help someone out and let me know what you wish you knew, and I'll be like, let me know something that you just discovered. And that's always a great thing. And I will mention, because I see one of the other authors who just came from the Author Nation event, but I didn't go this year, but for the 2 prior years, I went to Author Nation, which was originally 20 books, 50K in Vegas. And that was one of those great resources if you can afford to go, because there is so much that's out there resource-wise for authors, and you don't know what you don't know. And so the first time I remember walking in, I was like, oh, and the second time, because I had learned so much stuff, I was kind of, now I knew kind of the specific things I was going to gun for. I was like, this is a weak spot. How do I improve? And so going to, again, connecting with other authors, asking questions, being part of the writing community, those can be things that can level you up in ways that you didn't expect, I should say.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I've been looking at that 20 books to 50K, and well, I've never been to Vegas either. So I was like, it's definitely one that's on my list that I want to do. I've also never done a writers conference, so I'm making it a point in 2026. I want to go to more writers conferences. I want to make my way down to Dragon Con
Yes.
because I applied the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I got denied because I only have a single book out. I mean, go figure.
It's hard when you have only one.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, but I can at least go down there and attend. And I see all of these authors I know, like yourself, like Jason Doro,
Yes.
Nicole Melwassel. I was like, I could go down there and at least meet these people and sit on some of these panels. And I almost think I like that better than vending at an event like this, because this would be an event that I want to walk around at. So
Yeah.
I'm
And
making a plan.
if you go to something like Dragon Con as just, the regular Joe, one, you could have a lot of fun and you're not constricted. You're going to do what you want to do when you want to do. But two, you could get into the writing spaces and the fantasy or the horror or the, sci-fi or whatever these niches that they're out there, and meet the directors and meet the people who run it. And then, you start building those connections early on. So when you are at that level, it's, you're already kind of connected with the right people. So it never hurts. Now, when you're talking about writing conferences, there's one, it's somewhere on this massive, I'm not even flipping the camera around because my office it looks like a hurricane went through here. But somewhere in this pile of stuff, when I find it, I will send you the information. There is a writing conference. I think you're up the East Coast, right?
Yeah, I'm in like around DC area.
Okay, because there's one, I don't remember, I think it's in North Carolina that I've been eyeing. That's a writing conference, and it's in early March. That's super affordable, but brings in a lot of really high-end authors. So it's one that when I find the name, I will send it to you, because it's one that I'm looking at. I'm like, I haven't been to a writing conference in a while. Maybe it's about time to get back and shake things up.
It would be a ton of fun. I did Fredericksburg International Book Fest, which is Fredericksburg, Virginia, our independent book festival, and I met the woman who puts on Horror Reader Weekend. So they did Hudson, New York, and I think they're going to like New Orleans next year.
Oh yeah.
And they did North Carolina, not last year, but the year before that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that would be a lot of fun to do. And I got to meet her and talk to her, and that was wonderful. And now she's like, you should definitely make it out sometimes. I was like, yeah, it's on my plan. I would love to. But yeah, doing something like that, like a writing retreat or a reader retreat or something, would be a ton of fun on top of doing these writer conferences and stuff. I did get invited. One of the authors that I met, I'd done several events with him. And he used to be the chair for the writers conference up in Maryland. So they're doing Bay to Ocean Writer Conference is what it's called. It's in Y Mills, Maryland.
Huh.
And I guess he had a seat on a panel, but he couldn't make it. So he tossed my name out there and he was like, hey, this would be your first paid speaking gig. Are you interested? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. 100%. What I didn't know at the time, though, was that it was the same weekend as AwesomeCon, which I go every year to AwesomeCon. And this year, my idol, Alan Tudyk, is going. And so I'm like, okay, well, it's only a 1 day event. I can go Sunday when Alan Tudyk's still going to be there, and I can still try and meet him. Because last year I vended, but I still made time to go meet Simon Pegg and Nick Frost,
That's fantastic.
and it was 100% worth it. So now I got to go meet Alan Tudyk. So
I mean, that's the fun part of going to some of these multi-day, these bigger events that bring in different people in like the cinema and TV shows and that kind of fun stuff. Because when you have those little gaps of off time, unless you're truly vending the whole time at an event, it allows you to break to get away and again do some of the fun stuff.
yeah,
It is work, and you are trying to promote yourself and your business, and you're writing your books, but also it should be enjoyable.
yes, absolutely.
In various ways. So what has been your favorite event that you've gone to as an author?
So my favorite event, I have two. So Awesome Con is one of them. It wasn't necessarily my best selling event, but it was the best event for meeting authors and kind of getting out and doing some of that stuff that's still really close to home. But my favorite event to do was Sinful Signings, which was out in Roanoke, Virginia. That one
Mm-hmm.
was a lot of fun.
See, I have not made the effort yet to cross state borders to go to events. Now, I am very fortunate that living in Georgia, right outside the Atlanta area, Atlanta brings in a lot of events, a lot of big events, a lot of bookish events. And so I haven't felt that, that need that some other people, depending on where you live, might feel. With that said, I do feel like it's getting close to time to try to diversify a little bit. And I'm trying to like decide what are the So let me ask you, when I hear the title, now this is again judging an event by its title, when it says Sinful Signings, and I hear it all the time in the book community here, I always think of romance, romantasy, stuff like that. So you, as someone who doesn't necessarily write those genres, what made it appealing to you?
So I had no intention to go because, same as you, I thought that it was specifically for romance. But after the disaster that was A Million Lives, I
Mm-hmm.
was invited out to that event. So they were like, hey, we'd like to cover your table. You just pay for the hotel, whatever you need to do, and we'll, have you out. And I even messaged them. I was like, yeah, but that's a romance event, right? They were like, no, no, we have authors of every type. And so I went out there with a paranormal thriller, a single book, and in that time I sold almost 50 copies. And
Yeah.
for a single book, I feel like that's pretty good. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to put that one on my list because I hear it talked about, but again, typically the people who talk about it are romance writers. So I've not really been able to talk to someone who has gone to that event that did not write the genre that at least I was assuming it was.
And they are doing another event, same organizers, because I can't go in 2026 because they moved it up to March, and it's happened to be on the same weekend that my son's birthday is. My
Hmm.
wife would never let me survive that if I went to an event instead of going to my son's birthday. But they are doing another event in North Carolina. There's a castle down in North Carolina, and it's going to be much more fantasy focused. It's called Crown and Quill.
Crown and Quill. I'm gonna
Crown
write
and
that.
Quill. I think they just opened up applications not that long ago, but I applied to that one, and I'm looking forward to it. I haven't been accepted yet, so I hope I do. But going to a castle in North Carolina, just having a fantasy event would be a ton of fun.
Oh yes, oh yes. Going to just like again that vibe, that aesthetic, it just sets you in the mood.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Plus all the photo ops, every photo op you can think of.
And I feel like I would do myself disjustice if I didn't dress up for the event. Like I typically don't dress up in cosplay or anything like that, but for this event, I feel like I have to. Like
Yeah.
it's a must. You're in a castle at a fantasy event.
Yes. I didn't really cosplay. I didn't start cosplaying at events until this past like year cycle, but that was because I developed a cosplay based off one of my characters and had my readership pick which character I was going to cosplay as. But that helped bring people over to sell my books, and I was like, you know what?
I have to do this now. Yeah.
There's the thing. So every event, if it's multiple days, one day I try to at least loosely use that costume again for that purpose, and it's great. It's one of those, again, those little subtle things that people are like, oh, what are you dressed as? And you're like, well, here.
And you get that immediate like bubble of excitement. You're like, okay, here we go. You
Yeah.
know?
Now, almost the inverse is if I ever go to an event, and I've said this before, if I ever go to an event and someone cosplays as one of my characters, that will be one of those gold star wins that I'm waiting to check off on
Oh
my
yeah.
bucket list.
Oh yeah. 100%. I went down to Sinful Signings, and my wife for the longest time, like she supports me and stuff like that, but she doesn't go to too many events with me, so she doesn't quite know. I went to Sinful Signings and I did like the meet and greet by the pool of the hotel the Friday before the event. And one person ran up, they're like, "Oh my God, you're here! I'm such a big fan." And my wife's like, "You have fans?" I'm like this is new for me too. But apparently this is exciting.
This is
And
exciting. And actually, you were talking about Dragon Con a little earlier, so definitely follow Siska. She's a fantasy track director for that event that she just jumped on. Hi. I was talking with her last week. So, just throwing her out. So, anywho, where were we? Oh, let me just ask you for a moment. What are some of the things that you want to talk about for this chat? I've just been kind of running around, jumping around places.
so well, I already kind of talked about some of it. I talked about the runes that were in my book because I thought that that would be something that would be fun to discuss. But I also want to talk about that anthology.
Yeah,
You and I are part of an anthology coming out called Secrets, and I
yes.
haven't had a chance to check out your short story yet, but I'm excited to. We're still waiting on, I think, two other authors, and they said that they'll have it to me, I think, by Thanksgiving. So coming down to the wire now, and I'm excited about it. So
Yeah,
that's my sci-fi cosmic horror that I've got, and I'm really excited. She does. She has secrets,
I do.
and
Well, the funny thing is, like when the theme was announced for this particular anthology, I was like, I was racking my brain how to approach the concept of like a story that somehow pertains to the idea of secrets. And I don't know, I was just like, mine may have a little bit more of this outer limits vibe to it than I expected. Because again, with short stories, every time I write one, it's very different. And I can't really say it's a good sample of what I write because they're almost unique. So this one's very different, but it was a fun challenge to do, and I am curious to see what people think about it, if they get it, or if they're like, what were you doing?"
like I read this one story in here, and I'm just wondering what was Catherine thinking.
Why? Why do we go here? I don't know. It is on the darker side, but that shouldn't shock too many people outside of my YA series. Everything else so far, right, does lean to the dark side. The dark.
Well, I love it because, like, I did a poll in Indie Author Connect on what the topic's going to be, and overwhelmingly it was secrets. That's what they went with, and I was not excited about that at all because I had nothing on the top of my head about like how am I going to do this. So, but it is interesting to see some of the submissions that have come through, how people have interpreted that. So I was kind of curious, if you don't mind me asking you a question, how did you interpret that? What did you decide to do for your story?
See, the problem is the answer to that will give the point of the story away because
That's
I
crazy.
want people to read it and be like, why, for a while at least, and try to be, because I'm assuming, I can only assume, it's like with the anthology themed secrets, people are going to be wondering each story as they're going through, what is the secret, what is the reveal, what is the thing. So there's the secrets we keep from ourselves is kind of one of the approaches that I went with this. And of course, being a fantasy writer, I love adding some kind of eerie fantasy elements in this one. But the secrets we keep from ourselves is a little bit of the approach that I was kind of aiming for.
I like that. I like that approach a lot. And honestly, it's kind of similar. I could mentally turn it to where my story is that in its own sense, a secret that you're
Ah,
keeping from yourself. But I had fun with this one, as you said earlier. Short stories give you a chance to kind of experiment. I wanted this to be a short story where it's told through the lens of a main character who is not really the main character.
mm-hmm.
It's, I have a Captain Taggart in my book, and he's Irish and he's fun. And a lot of people that I had beta read it, they're like, "Wow, this guy's he seems better than the main character. Your main character just seems like a blank canvas that all of these things are happening in front of. I was like that was kind of the point. But I had to make some adjustments to make sure that it was absolutely clear that the main character in my story is not really the main character. He's just the lens, the perspective. Because if I made Taggart the main character, the secret would be given away way too quickly. Because he's a sharp-witted guy, he figures things out really quickly. So the reader is going on this journey, watching Taggart figure all this stuff out, so that the secret still remains a surprise.
I like that. No, I do like. There are only a handful of stories, be it books or cinema or whatever, that I've seen told that way, where the characters that are the ones taking you through this journey are not the main character, again, depending on how you define the main character. And Jason Doro, his first book, we mentioned Little Him earlier, Agathar's Greatest Trick, was kind of like that. I know for anybody who's Shakespeare lovers, there was a movie, and it was like the two obscure characters from one of his tragedies, and you followed them. But meanwhile, like the main tragedy, I can't remember if it was, I think it was like, I don't know if it was Romeo and Juliet or Hamlet, but it was one of the big ones happening, all the big things happening behind the scenes, and you kind of cross paths, and you're getting the story from the most obscure characters of that play, which is, again, fun stuff. But who thinks of these things?
But I love that take on storytelling, because if you were to tell it from the main person's point of view, the story would probably be pretty bland. But getting it from this like side character, getting it from their perspective, adds this whole nother twist, this whole nother element that's kind of exciting, you know?
Oh yeah, and again, the variety of approaches authors in general can take to tell the same story. Maybe that's not that you want to take on another anthology,
Right.
but that would be one, is come up with like a storyline, the simplest storyline, and then everybody has to interpret it through their own method. I don't know if that would be too redundant or just interesting to see the variability within every author's mind to come up with the same story in their own way.
I have this idea once I'm either finished with or further along with this series. The second book would be, after that's published, it would be a lot more fun, but I wanted to do like a short anthology with other authors where they could kind of create their own short story within my world. And it would just be an anthology of authors. I would probably contribute 2 or 3 of them. That would be, but they'd all be canonical stories, and just let some authors kind of explore my world a little bit and have some fun with it. And it would just be a free anthology that I would just give away to introduce people into my world from the eyes of other authors,
That's cool. There's someone did something kind of similar, but I can't put my finger on where I've heard it. But I do like that, where you come up with a framework of like, here's your world system, and then other authors get a play in it. So that would be fun. I could see that.
Well, especially when you've got like actual light magic, dark magic, and then rune magic. It'd be a lot to kind of play with. And I mean, hell, the world is vast. There's a lot of fun things to do in that. But kind of what Cisco was hinting at is developing the framework so that people could like really get their feet wet into the world. That would be the challenging part, I think, for me. But I'd be kind of excited to just collaborate with authors, be like, all right, hey, and if you have questions, just come ask me. Be like, ooh, this is really great. I get to expand my lore more than I can actually fit in the book. Because I mean, I'm sure, is when you're writing the book, so much of that background lore just gets dropped in favor of the story or for the characters because it just doesn't fit nicely into the mix of things,
Well, that's when you become, that super cool person, or I guess cool depending how you look at it, that comes out with like the addition that like all the back matter, all the background, all that kind of stuff, and it's like the companion book to this world. It's not a story, but it goes Tolkien-esque style, just of all the history and all the other things that couldn't fit in, and you're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And then you definitely would have people making TikTok videos, like diving into this lore that you have. That's one of my goals, is to see TikTok videos just like really nerding out about the lore of my world and all the characters and things that like most people don't know about. Like maybe they've only seen the Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit movies and they don't know all of this and aren't familiar with Morgoth and all of the other stuff, or Valinor or any of that stuff. And so you get these people making TikTok videos like, wow, holy crap, there's a lot more lore in here than I thought there was.
Mm-hmm. See that? Yeah, the expansions to that world, to the power. Actually, how because you have your first book, you're working on the second one of your initial series. How many books in the series do you have planned at this moment in time? I know it can change.
So I want to keep it as a trilogy, and specifically on principle, just because I know when some series get too long, it's almost like when are they going to end? You know, you kind of look at the Wheel of Time, or you wonder if they're ever going to end, like Dawn of Ice and Fire. And since I'm such a slow writer, I don't want to leave people hanging for too long. So even if book 2 has to be like 250,000 words, I think I'm going to try my hardest to stick this out to a trilogy. But I'm up for debate on that one because the other books in the series are going to be way different than this one. This one is very real world grounded with just a sprinkling of fantasy, whereas the other books are straight fantasy. So I thought maybe this would be like book 0.5, and then I would do the trilogy 1, 2, and 3 following that. But that's still up in the air. I'm thinking I might just keep this as a trilogy, and I'm trying really hard. That's one of the reasons my writing has been so slow for the second book is like I'm trying to compress it down. So I'm like, okay, I got to treat this like the middle of a trilogy and kind of keep it that way.
Well, on one hand, you don't really want to totally force your story into something that it shouldn't be for the sake of, that sweet number. On the other hand, part of that's the editing process. What do you need to keep, what can go, and all that kind of that fun stuff. But no, there are more and more authors now that kind of span on all these, 0.5s or these kind of setup and prequels or these intro books, and then you go into the main series, and then you'll have like a secondary spin-off series, and then you'll have, the side tangent like novellas and short story. You're an author, you get to decide how you want to tell your story, your world, and how it wants to be expressed. But if you want it to be a trilogy, you're the one in control. Make it a trilogy. But if you feel like it's best served as 4 books isn't that big. We're not talking about 16 books. I know. Wheel of Time. I'm working my way through that series right now. But, it's okay. Plus, I feel like readers, especially people who are fans of someone's work, will wait, respectively. Will wait, knowing that a lot of authors have secondary jobs, third jobs, families, kids, all these other things, we're not just constantly type. We're also trying to market our books, which takes time away from writing the books. So, I think people are understanding in general.
In general, yeah. You definitely get some of those. You get the jokes a lot, like, when's the next one coming out? At events, I get people that are looking at my first book. They're like, ooh, that looks interesting. It's part of a series. I'm like, yeah. They're like, well, when's the next book come out? It's like, well, you haven't even read this one yet. They're like, I like to wait until the series is done. I was like, yeah, but what if you pick this up and you don't like it? Then you don't care if the rest of the series comes out. That's one of the reasons I tried to make sure that this one ends nicely. Like it has a tidy ending. There are unanswered questions, but there's no like massive cliffhanger. Yeah. And I felt like I was trying to do that. So if I decided, okay, this wasn't getting enough traction, I can just end it right there. The murder mystery resolves itself. It's good. But it did get decent traction, I feel. So I was like, okay, definitely am going to continue this one. I'm enjoying what I'm coming up with. But yeah, same thing. I just want to keep it like a trilogy, but may do a 4th book and just call this one, like you said, a prequel. Mm-hmm. Do it that way.
Yeah, and I also see Seska saying that trilogies are easier to market at the moment, though I will admit, people can argue against me, I've seen more, is it quadrilogy? What's 4 books? Quadrilogy is popping up more and more now, so I don't know if that's becoming the new trilogy, but yeah, if you have that succinct number, it is arguably, maybe not arguably, it is easier to market. I just like to tell long stories. I like to talk. I like to write.
That's the best part, though. Like I sit down and I'm trying to get myself 250 to 300 words a night at minimum. Like that's my thing, because I had this mindset that if I'm not going to be able to sit down and pump out like 1,000 to 2,000 words, there's no point in me sitting down at all, because I like to immerse myself in the story. But I've found a rhythm that seems to be working pretty well, where I can kind of immerse myself leading up to the writing session, and then knock out a good 250 to 300 words. And sometimes I'll even knock out more. I'll end up doing like 1,200 words just because I don't know. I get like a fever dream kind of thing, and my fingers just keep running. And and that's kind of my approach now, and I'm hoping to hit my deadlines. But yeah, I like a long story. I mean, like I said, I read the Brent Weeks trilogy, all of his books in the Lightbringer series, which is 5 books. All of them are over 300,000 words. They're massive.
Yeah.
And so I was listening to the audiobooks of those, and I'm just like in awe. I want to be able to write a story that's that densely packed and that in depth and still engaging and paced well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but
it's yeah, it's good to know the goals you're aiming for and see how they work with the style of writing you have. And as authors, we always hope that we can continue to improve. I say this all the time, but like every book we write, we want to be a little better and a little better, our writing to be a little, as some people say, a little tighter, a little cleaner, the pacing is smoother and all that kind of stuff. So I definitely get that. And I also see notes of someone saying they show people a book coming out on Black Friday and getting questions about when the next one is. That is always going to be the case, no matter what. Even if when is the next one coming? That is a question. Be prepared for. It happens all the time, and that's one of those things that I always try to push myself to cycle through a variety of writing projects. I don't know why. I don't just publish one series and then move to the next. I have like 5 projects going on at different times. So yes, there's probably a year to maybe a year and a half gap between books of a series at times, but I am releasing different things, and it's just because I have, kind of like it sounds like with your short stories, I have a lot of interest within the realm of fantasy, and I want to like play in all those little areas and see where it goes.
it's always fun to tackle those little side quests too.
Side quests? Absolutely. Absolutely. So let me ask you, since the hour is sprinting by in this case, which I feel like happened last time we talked, but where can people get Armitage? Are you exclusive to Fuzan? Obviously, we've mentioned you sell it a little bit direct, but selling direct, is it wide, that kind of thing? Where can people get your book?
So you can get it pretty much everywhere books are sold. The ebook is exclusive to Amazon because I wanted to do Kindle Unlimited to make it accessible for people that are already subscribed and wanted to try something new. But if you want signed copies, I sell them directly through my website. I've got paperback, hardcover, and you know what? I'm gonna walk myself over here because I haven't had a chance to show off my deluxe edition yet.
Deluxe edition. Okay, sorry.
I call it my deluxe edition, but it's this right here. But it's got
Ooh,
the witch sprayed edge. It's also got that nice little built-in bookmark right there.
I like it. Sprayed
You can't
edges.
get this one anywhere else. There's no bookmark on it. I just put my logo. But and then underneath, let me get myself set up here. Underneath the dust jacket cover, since we were talking about alternate covers, I've got a nice alternate cover, and it is labeled on the spine if you don't like dust jackets. But this one you can't get anywhere else except for events that I'm attending or through my website. So
see, that's why I'm doing the Kickstarter for my special edition omnibuses for my Dark Viking Fantasy series, is because I want to be able to, one, after the Kickstarter runs, hopefully successfully, be able to then have these books at hand and sell them through my website shop and direct to people, and it's so cool having those kind of things.
And I love it. And I don't advertise this one nearly as much. Same with my audiobook, which, by the way, I sell audiobooks directly through my website or anywhere audiobooks are found.
Let's go back to Game of Thrones. Shame.
And I'm so upset about it because I have 4 narrators, and they're all phenomenally talented.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of people in fantasy are aware of Aaron Smith.
Mm-hmm.
He's my main narrator, and he does several voices. And then I've got Ori Nash, who mostly does romance books, just like Brandon Francis, who is another one of my narrators. But she does like the witch Raja in my book. She does like the most chilling performance of Raja in that book, and it's just so well done. And then Brandon Francis, everybody knows Brandon for his romance novels, but I was his first thriller and his first full cast. I'm excited about that one. And then Elise Hoffman plays some of the other female characters. So I have one main narrator, and then a cast of other narrators to play the voices. So they're like voice acting, basically.
I love that. if you need marketing material, I just heard a whole bunch of it. I heard, play little clips and talk about, the fact that it's a full voice cast for the audio. Make sure you show your pretty book, because especially on Book Talk, there are a lot of people who like the pretty books. And, you have a pretty book. Show it off. She needs to be seen.
I got that initial advice, and for some reason I can't shake it, was the 80-20 rule, that 80% of the content you post should not be about your book, and then that 20% should be. But then lately I'm seeing a lot of people like, talk about your book all the time. Half the time nobody's going to see it anyways, so just talk about it all the time.
Yeah. And like the algorithm will show it, to some of your super followers. So they'll see it again and again, and I feel bad for that. On the other hand, it's always showing it someone new. So you never know what you're posting is going to reach someone new. So for me, I'm kind of the 80-20 inverse. I'm talking about my stuff 80% of the time, but also talk about, things that other 20% of the time. I have my questions a day and other bookish things. So it's not always my books, me, my books. But on the other hand, I'm here to let the world know about my beautiful books.
Plus, you've got that lovely display behind you too, so you can always keep your books on display.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm always tweaking it too. I used to only have the spines, then I was like, wait, people want to see covers, and now I'm like playing around with different things. So again, always learning on what you have to do. So that's what we do. We adjust. You've mentioned that you have your book in all four formats, and definitely check out the signed copies from you, because that is super cool. I love signed copies and I love pretty books. So I'm going to put that on when I can budget for new books, because that's the thing is I get money and then I spend money, and it's always on stuff. I'm definitely going to put your special edition on my list, because I don't have a signed copy of yours yet. So that's going to have to change.
I need to get one of yours too. So.
Well, maybe a book swap is in order, but let me also ask, where outside of Book Talk can people find you? Newsletter, website, other socials, that kind of thing.
I'm on pretty much all social media, but I'm most active in TikTok, Instagram, and Threads. I do have a newsletter, and I try to give, I guess, sneak peeks at everything I'm working on in my newsletter before it ever hits, and sometimes it never hits social media. So newsletter is definitely a way to go. And if you subscribe to my newsletter, it's on Substack. The top post is my free short story, The Dragon Mist, which also includes an audio version read by the talented Gavin Cash. And that way you get an audiobook version or an ebook version.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I do see some marketing advice about the whole thing. And yes, more studies show the more times you show your book covers, more people are likely to buy it. I have seen, and that's one of the reasons why I started doing this book display behind me, when authors do their posts that they're not necessarily talking about their books, the ones that have their book covers just happenstance, on display behind them. Again, it's one of those kind of that subtle thing that people are seeing their books, even though they're not necessarily hearing the pitch all the time. So, a poster, a book on a shelf, things to think about.
So like directly behind if I'm facing my computer, which is usually how I make videos, I've got this junk behind me because I'm getting ready to redo my closet. So I always try to turn to the side so that way I have my books there, but they're a little too far behind me. I need to scooch up closer to my bookshelf.
Yeah, tweak things around.
Yes.
Get a ring light that has the clip so you can move it with you and your chair. That's what I do.
It's the easy way to do it, yeah.
I have become that person. But marketing. Oh, man.
That's right, exactly.
So, okay, let me also ask, for anybody who's listening, as well as you right now, Atlas, is there anything you wanted to cover topic-wise that we haven't got to cover, or any announcements you want to make that this is that time? Any questions? This is that time where we want to make sure we hit it all.
So we talked about the anthology that me and Katharine are part of called Secrets. That will be coming out definitely next year. Not sure when yet, but we'll get that out there. I'll start doing a lot more marketing once that comes out. I've got second book of Armitage, hopefully coming out next summer is my deadline. And for the month of November, any sales of my book Armitage through my website, including the special edition, I'm donating 20% of it to Feeding America.
Fantastic. That is fantastic. I absolutely applaud every author who does something like that, where, it's already, on one hand, for people who don't know, a book sale is usually we get a little it off the full cut. So when anybody's just like, you know what, I'm pretty much just not going to take anything, but I'm doing something good and putting that money back to a good cause, I applaud people. So, that
Just
is a fantastic.
whatever you can do, especially right now when so many people are struggling.
And also, I want you to mention the Discord group that you're part of for people
Yeah.
who are in the writing community that might need some support. So why don't you mention
So
that?
since we're on the topic of terrible marketing and how bad I am at it, um, I run a Discord community and website called Indie Author Connect. It's completely free. The Discord is for authors, editors, audiobook narrators, cover designers to all get together, talk shop, ask questions, share advice, help each other out. But the website is the bulk of it, and it's like I said, it's just a free resource portal where you can find audiobook narrators, editors, cover designers, map makers, alpha, beta, arc readers. All of them have been personally vetted by me, so that way you're not going to be getting scammed, and anything you might need as an author should be there.
Yeah, that's the first time we talked and you mentioned that, and I checked that out because I was just like, ooh, resources again, always wanting to learn and connect and do things. So it's again one of those wonderful things that you're giving back to the writing community because you took that on your shoulders to create and do. So another applaud needs to go for that too. So when you're worried about like not writing your books fast enough, you are doing things.
Yeah, I'm trying to do as much as I can, but maybe I should focus more on the writing. I'm sad at myself that I have not finished the second book yet.
It's a bit of a balance thing. I understand. Like I go through those moments where I feel like, okay, I'm on a groove and I'm writing and it's, I have my pattern and I have my schedule and it's great. And then I get off the horse, off the bandwagon, off the whatever, for whatever reason, and it's so hard to get back on. And I'm feeling like that right now. Now I'm doing a bunch of stuff. I have a bunch of projects moving, but I'm not sitting down to write new stuff for the past few weeks. And I'm kind of like,
I get super upset at myself about that, but I have found that at least the past couple times it has happened, if I go a couple weeks without writing, when I do sit down to write, it like pours out, like it's been like pent up. So it is nice. Not every time, but definitely the last 2 or 3 times, and it's nice to sit down and have that just kind of spur of inspiration. Yep.
Yeah, because there are a number of authors that get stuck with writer's block. I, knock on wood or whatever, have not dealt with that yet. I'm usually the one that has too many ideas, and I have to like just keep the focus on at least long enough on a project to move it to the next stage before I jump, because that's more my thing. It's like, ooh, cool project, ooh, neat idea, ooh, wait.
That's a great problem to have, though. I'm envious of that problem.
It'll change eventually, and I know it, so I'm going to take advantage of this as long as possible. But yeah, and then as far as announcements, I will also say for myself, because next week my Kickstarter launches for my special editions. You can see the dust covers back there, the pretty foiling underneath, and sprayed edges and all the works. But if anybody's interested, you can check out the link, and this will be for a double omnibus set of my Viking Dark Fantasy series, all 16 novellas compiled in 2, and that launches next week. So if you like pretty books, there's a pretty book too. 2 pretty books. Sorry, that was mine. Because again, I get into these and I'm like always talking, and then I'm like, wait, I have to remember. I have to like periodically just say, yeah, I'm also a writer. I do things.
Well, maybe I'll pull you aside one time and we'll do a live where you could talk about your books and you could pitch your stuff.
That sounds
And
like
I'll do the
fun.
interview. Yeah.
I absolutely love it. And at some point, we'll get together and actually see each other at a venue, at an event, be it Simple Signings or Dragon Con, or I guess you were mentioning Crown and Quill or any of these other ones. It would be a lot of fun to do that too.
Absolutely, yeah.
But until next time, everyone, I know we have hit that end of the hour, and as we've mentioned, writers need to write, and so there are certain things that I have to do deadline-wise too. But Atlas, thank you for hanging out with me for the last hour. It's been so much fun reconnecting with you. I know we've chit-chat a little bit here and there, but it's nice to be able to talk for like a block of time.
That's right, yeah.
And I hope we get to be able to plan another one of these again, because you are, one, a very outspoken individual, and it's always really fun to see what you do and what you're about. And if anybody is interested in live events, check him out and some of his posts, because he has a great setup, by the way, for your book booth. But thank you, everyone, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week, and happy reading and happy writing, everyone. Bye.
Bye.